Man, Saturday was one of the most chaotic days I've seen in the NHL in a while. Like, I swear, I don't remember this much chaos heading up to the Vegas expansion draft back in 2017. As the chaos is going on, the Penguins just slipped right in there with a little trade dumping off Jared McCann to the Toronto Maple Leafs for prospect Philip Hallander and a 7th round pick. For those who don't know, Philip Hallander is actually a former Penguins prospect. They actually traded him last year in the Kapanen trade. I actually really liked him. He's a former 2nd round pick, actually a pretty good prospect. And he's only 21 years old, lots of upside for him. Some people project him to be a middle 6 player, right? He's definitely projected to make the NHL, it's just on how the Penguins develop him. But honestly, I don't want to talk about the prospect in return. I want to talk about Jared McCann and the fact that the Penguins let him go, traded him before losing him for nothing next week. There was a lot of reports coming out leading up to this that the Penguins weren't going to protect Jared McCann, and a lot of people, including myself, were calling that a mistake. I think the Penguins should have protected Jared McCann as one of the 7 forwards, and I still think they should have kept him, which leads me to the trade, right? What do I think about it? Because honestly, I'm all over the place. At first, I really didn't like it. This pretty much means that the Penguins are going to protect Brandon Tanev, and I honestly thought that they could have just let him exposed. I don't think Seattle touches that contract, because although I think Brandon Tanev is valuable to us, I don't think other teams look at that 4-year, $3.5 million contract as something they want to touch. I thought if you leave Jared McCann unprotected, 100% Seattle is taking him. He's a great young player. He could play pretty much everywhere, center, winger. He's actually pretty not bad defensively. I like the asset management part of this trade, right? It looked like the Penguins weren't going to protect him. He wasn't in their long-term plans going forward. And if he was left unprotected, in my opinion, like I said before, I think 100% Seattle takes him. It's a no-brainer, honestly. There was probably some kind of final decision made sometime this week, maybe last week, saying that, they're not going to protect Jared McCann. So the fact that they were looking for trades and found one, and I think got a pretty good prospect in return, that I really, really like. So you're not going to be losing a good young player for absolutely nothing. You're getting a good young prospect back, but it doesn't go with the whole win now mode that the Penguins are in. So I like the fact that we didn't lose him for nothing and got a pretty good prospect out of it, but I don't like that we just gave up on him. Like the fact that he wasn't in the team's plans going forward. For me, Jared McCann is your perfect middle 6 forward. He's so flexible in your lineup. You can put him on the top line with Sid and he's going to perform. You can put him down the middle as your 3rd line center. You can put him on the penalty kill because he's not bad defensively. You can trust him 5-on-5 because he's, like I said, he's not bad. He's actually pretty decent defensively. And he can actually produce on the power play like we saw last year. So like I said, I think he was just very flexible, not too expensive, just making less than $3 million. But then I kept on thinking, yes, you lose Jared McCann, but this is definitely not the only thing the Penguins are going to do this offseason. This could be just like part 1 of many things to come. I'm really waiting to see what's going to happen with this whole expansion draft. Who are the Penguins going to lose? Because depending on who the Penguins lose, they can actually clear up a good amount of cap space heading into free agency. And with that cap space, they can sign someone maybe potentially better than Jared McCann to replace him. Because look, with this trade, the Penguins now have $4 million in cap space. As of right now, here are the Penguins UFAs. They have to sign Colton Sevier, Evan Rodriguez, Mark Jankowski, Freddie Gaudreau, Czar, and Cody Ceci on the back end. Now, most of those guys I mentioned can honestly go, good riddance, right? Like Colton Sevier, we don't need Colton Sevier. I like Evan Rodriguez. If he wants a cheap deal, you bring him back. Be done with Mark Jankowski. He's okay, honestly, like not worth a top 12 spot on your team. I really like Freddie Gaudreau. I really hope the Penguins can get him on some kind of 1 or 2 year deal at less than $1 million. I don't think he'll be too expensive. I really hope the Penguins can bring back Czar. Unless he gets taken in the expansion draft, then you don't have to worry on signing him. And Cody Ceci, I really want back. So Ceci, Czar, and Gaudreau from all those guys that I mentioned is who I hope the Penguins bring back. With the $4 million that the Penguins have right now, I actually think you could sign all those 3 guys because realistically, how much does Ceci want? I don't think he wants more than $2 million. If he does, maybe you move on. But that's off just the cap that they cleared with this Jared McCann trade, right? Let's say they lose a guy like Jason Zucker in the expansion draft. That's another $5.5 million that you free up. So the 3 that you save for McCann, I think you can sign Czar, Ceci, Gaudreau, maybe a little bit more you would need. And then you get another 5.5 to actually spend in free agency. Now, maybe it's not Jason Zucker. Maybe it's Mike Matheson. That's another $5 million. Maybe it's Marcus Pettersson, another $4 million. Now, to wrap it up, this is my game plan heading into the expansion draft. If I was Ron Hextall and the management, I know there's rumors that they want to protect Brandon Tanev, but this is what I'm doing. Instead of Brandon Tanev, your 7th guy should be Zach Aston Reese. I know maybe a lot of you might not agree. So you'll have Crosby, Malkin, Gensel, Rust, Kapanen, Bluger, and Zach Aston Reese. Now, I'm not saying Zach Aston Reese is better than a Brandon Tanev or a Jeff Carter or whoever else, but with that, you're forcing Seattle to take either someone that's not on your roster because they don't want to touch a big cap hit, or they got to take someone with a cap hit over $3 million. I think you're putting yourself in the best spot possible doing that. You're retaining Czar, who's a great defensive-minded forward, and you just lost a guy like Jared McCann. You would want Czar to get a bigger role in your top 9. Because to me, if you leave Czar unprotected and go with Tanev instead, that's an easy pick for Seattle. They're easily going to take Czar. He's cheap and he's a solid NHL player. You instead protect Czar. Now Seattle's looking, do I take a Zucker, a Matheson, a Pedersen, a Brandon Tanev? Or maybe I don't want none of those cap hits and instead I'll go get one of their AHL guys. So now it's a win-win for the Penguins, because let's say they take a guy like Brandon Tanev. That sucks a lot because I do like Tanev and I love his game. But at the end of the day, that's a $3.5 million contract that's removed from your team. You can go spend that in free agency. Do I think they take Tanev? No, because like I said, I don't think that's an attractive contract to other NHL GMs. Maybe they take a guy like Jason Zucker, right? $5.5 million. That, for me, that's the guy I hope they take. I like Zucker, but $5.5 million, you can really do something in free agency with that. So to sum up everything, because I kind of went off topic talking about the expansion draft, the reason why I'm bringing this up, because for me, this is part 1 of a 2-part thing that leads to the expansion draft. I think Ron Hextall and the management have some sort of plan here. It's not the Jim Rutherford days towards the end where he was just doing anything hoping it would work. But as far as this trade goes, my final opinion on this is, it's not the end of the world. Yes, I like Jared McCann. Yes, I think the Penguins are a better team with him in the lineup than when he's not. But you have to look at it, right? This team just lost 3 straight first-round exits, right? It's not like Jared McCann helped them in any way. I'm not saying it's his fault, but he didn't help them in the playoffs. He didn't produce. Again, I'm not just singling him out because almost everyone didn't produce. Obviously, after 3 first-round exits, again, I'm not saying it's his fault. Sometimes you just got to move on from certain players, right? It's not the end of the world that we're losing. It's not like he was the game-changing player that was the difference between us going all the way, right? We've seen it the last 3 years. Like how much worse can this team get without a Jared McCann in the lineup? What, not make the playoffs? I think this management has a plan. They're going to look to find maybe a better replacement. Maybe, they're looking to get a bit bigger, maybe something more for the playoffs. I shouldn't be hitting my head on the wall over this move is what I'm trying to say. Like, you can find a better player in free agency. If they do this right, they can get better replacements within the system. A guy like Zahorna can play more. He was really good in the time he got. Freddie Gaudreau, like I said, I loved, so he can play. That's just within the system, let alone what you can do in free agency. But enough of what I think. I want to hear what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Do you like the trade? Do you wish they kept and protected Jared McCann in the expansion draft? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments. And it's going to be an exciting week next week. Who are the Penguins going to lose? Who are they going to protect? We'll know all next week, and I'll see you in those videos. Thank you so much for watching.